Starting now, you can get a transcript of each week's Rich Dad radio show. Just visit www.richdad.com/radio and download a copy today.
This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. This is Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And my sweetheart Kim is not here today. She's on a plane at this moment, flying to Hawaii. But anyway, we have a fantastic show. Our show today is really it begs to ask the question, what is real today and what is fake? Now, I'm setting you up because I'm coming out with a new book called Fake, and it's called Fake Money, Fake Teachers, and Fake Assets. But as you know, today, almost everything is fake. I was walking around this shopping center the other day, and I said, God, this grass looks great. Because, in Phoenix in the summertime, how can grass look great? And it was fake grass. I couldn't even tell it was fake. It was so good. And then we've also heard, Trump talking about fake news. And there's now even, there's fake Gucci's and fake Rolexes and all that stuff. Everything's fake today. So how do you know what's real or fake? That's our show today. And there's a new thing called deep fake. Deep fake is about how technology has come so far that an average techie can now take a celebrity, capture their voice and their likeness, and you can't tell that it's not them. So naturally, as we all know, the most powerful, the segment of the tech world, social media, is porno. And so what's happened is today you can see your favorite movie star in a porno star movie. And you won't know if it's real or fake because it's in their voice and their likeness and their body and everything. That's how powerful technology has taken things. That's why it's called deep fake. And when I was a kid, it was called deep throat. It was same old stuff, but it goes to porno. But the real danger of deep fake is that you can get a guy like Kim Jong-un, capture his likeness in his voice, speaking Korean, say, we're going to nuke America now. And at that point, you have to decide, is it the real Kim Jong-un or the fake Kim Jong-un? So today, the reason that my new book is coming out is called Fake Money, Fake Teachers, and Fake Assets. It'll be out soon. It'll be for free. You can read much of the book for free online because I'm looking for feedback on the book. But today we're talking about what's real and what's fake. And that's the question. So it's a very important program because as soon as possible, you as an individual needs to figure out what's real and what's fake. That's the issue today. And it's a very important program. We have two guests. We have a great friend, Brian London. He's the editor and publisher of the Gold newsletter. He's the host of the New Orleans Investment Conference, which I will be at and I go to learn. And the reason I like the New Orleans Investment Conference is in many ways it's old school. It's about what real assets are. So I know today most people are in techie or Bitcoin and all that, which are important asset classes. But I love going to the New Orleans Investment Conference for two reasons. Number one is I get to see the old school fake assets like gold, silver, food, water, things like that, which to me are real investments today. And Brian's website is goldnewsletter.com. And our second guest is Chris Blasi. He's the chairman of Neptune Gold Holdings. And he does a thing called the PMC ounce, which is counter to the fake gold ETFs and fake silver ETFs, paper money, or fake gold, fake silver. So it's a very important program today because the way the world is going, the question is, how much longer are you and I going to accept fake money? I mean, how much more are you going to allow these people to print money and you're going to keep working for it like an idiot? That's the question. And it's really a good time to buy or pay attention because everything is depressed today with with trade war looming on the horizon and all this stuff, and everything's depressed right now. So even the stock market is depressed, gold and silver are depressed. But that's not really the most important question in the long term. The long-term question is, what's real, what's fake? So that's why it's a very important program. So welcome to the program, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and Chris, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Robert. Great to be here.
Brian, how long have you been part of the New Orleans Investment Conference, and how long have you been in this real gold, real silver, real assets? Like, the last time I was at the New Orleans Investment Conference, I was looking at investing in avocados. To me, avocados are real. I don't eat fake avocados. So would you mind giving us a little history of how you got into gold, but also some of the, the benefits of going to the New Orleans Investment Conference?
Yeah, absolutely. The New Orleans conference was started by Jim Blanchard, who was known as the original gold bug, who helped get gold legalized again in America.
That was 1974. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, most people don't know that owning gold up to 1974, you're a criminal, and I was a criminal in 1972 because I bought my first gold coin in Hong Kong.
Absolutely. It was like, heroin or plutonium. It was illegal to own outside of rare coins of jewelry. And Jim, after Nixon just cut the last tie between the dollar and gold in 1971, Jim started Gold Newsletter to advocate for the return of gold, legal gold ownership. And he would send out press releases and invitations to the ATF, the Treasury, and FBI saying he was going to display a privately owned ounce of gold at this press conference, and please come and arrest him. And
he was out there, wasn't he?
He really was, and of course they declined the invitation, but eventually it worked, and they signed into law in late 1974 gold legalization again. And so Jim decided to have a conference in advance of that to teach Americans how to invest in gold, and that became the New Orleans Investment Conference. So it's going on 44 years this year, and I've only been involved for 33 years of that.
You're a young buck when you started, right?
Yeah. I started off as a junior writer for Jim in 1985, and here I am today running the whole show and trying to live up to the rich legacy that he started.
Yeah, and it's a little tough because, everybody's into Bitcoin and, the whole tech, social media and all this. But I just love going to your program and speaking at your program last year, simply because I got to see what's real. And your speakers, I go to speak, but I've already heard myself before. But I go to listen to your speakers, because you have some very, very, very powerful, credible people, saying things that most people never hear.
That's exactly right, and that's part of the legacy that Jim left us. He always splurged on getting speakers that no other conference would try to get. We've had Margaret Thatcher, Alan Greenspan, Barry Goldwater, Ayn Rand over the years. Just a tremendous roster of the giants of recent history. So we try to live up to that, and what we do is we get people who can get behind the political headlines and find the truth. What's the difference between fake news? What are they really doing? What is Washington really, what designs do they really have on your wealth and the future of the economy and your liberties? And we also focus on investments that are real, that tend to benefit from the eventual debasement of paper currencies.
And it goes back to the question of how much longer can the central banks, and not just the Fed, how much longer can the Bank of Japan keep negative interest rates and keep QEing, keep printing money? How much longer? Draghi was on for the European Central Bank this morning, and he says, we're going to continue to print. Now, the question of all my listeners right here, how long are you going to be stupid? How long will you actually sit there and accept printed money, fake money? And that's really the question of the show and all this, to think about that. How much longer are you, me, and the rest of the world going to accept fake money? That's the question, isn't it, Brian?
It really is. And what I tell people is this is not anything that's unusual in human history.
No, it's happened so many times in history.
Over and over again, every civilization eventually, through wars or entitlements or just lavish lifestyles of the ruling class, they eventually overspend and create unmanageable debts. And the prescription in every case has been to debase the currency.
Yeah,
and then
the U.S. did it twice with what's called the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. We printed money.
Exactly, and in fact, if you look in the 20th century, there were two instances where, number one, FDR acquired or forced every American citizen to turn in their gold. And once they did that, then they debased the dollar versus gold by 69% in one fell swoop.
Yeah, they basically screwed everybody who turned their gold in.
They threw them off the deck of the Titanic and didn't throw them a life preserver.
Right.
They took the life preserver away first, then kicked them off the ship.
So once again, that's Brian London, host of the New Orleans Investment Conference. They have the most interesting speakers. Boy, they talk about open up your mind, but also the part I love is going around to speak to all the people selling what I consider real assets like avocados and lumber and water and gold and silver and oil. Because no matter what happens to our fake money, we'll still be eating avocados. And the second guest is Chris Blossig. Chris, what do you think about this whole fake money thing, and why are you in what's called a PMC ounce, which is different than a fake gold ETF and a fake silver ETF?
Well, thanks, Robert. And yes, I'm on board with your opinion and about fake, and we'll talk about fake money. And to your point of how long will this continue to go on, we know that fundamentally what the inevitable future is for fake fiat money.
Right, because Brian said it, this is not the first time sportsmen. They've been doing this for thousands of years, and people are gullible enough to take paper money or fake money.
You're exactly right. And that's what's so sad in some respects, Robert, right? That it's the same playbook, but it continues to suck in the masses. And we know that even people that have acquired physical precious metals, and we'll get into why physical and not something that Wall Street created, to protect themselves for the inevitable, this is a kind of live-for-the-moment society, and people get frustrated that, gold isn't at $5,000 an ounce right now, where it will be eventually. But, the flip side
and just to be clear, Rich Dad Radio, we don't sell gold or silver. We've had other guys on the program and say gold is going to go to $400 an ounce. We've had Jim Rickard say it's going to go to $10,000 an ounce. So that's why we have different people on this program, so you can listen to their points of view. Okay?
Sure. And actually, the point of where its target is, I kind of pick something in the middle between a lot of different analysts, right? We know analysts have some very aggressive price targets for where gold will be.
Well, it depends. If you're selling gold, you have aggressive, high prices, and if you hate gold, you have low prices. I mean, that's the way it is, right?
Absolutely. Well, everything has got a bias to it, right?
Right.
So, but as for the people that may be frustrated that they feel that their investment into the precious metals hasn't paid off based on where they want it to be, the reality is this is an elongated process. It's going on longer than many folks feel, it should have. But you know what? It is a window of opportunity to convert from fake to real, because we know that once it becomes obvious to everyone that fake is being called out and it's going to be, priced for what its real value is, that's kind of too late. So, I understand some people being frustrated, but the reality is, you should be converting, safeguarding your wealth, and then going on about your life, and not get too concerned on the day-to-day about what the price fluctuations are, because the trend is in place. History tells us what will happen, so, we know where it's going. And just, protect yourself by, allocating your resources appropriately, and then just hold the course, and don't allow the fakers, right, to dissuade you.
Right.
It's just like war. It's like war with diversions.
Yeah, Chris, when we come back, we're going to break right now, but I want you to explain what Neptune Global Holdings, LLC, does. And we're going to talk about the PMC ounce, how it's different than a fake ETF and a fake silver ETF, which is SLV and GLD on the call sign. So when we come back, we'll be talking more to Brian London. The issue today is what's fake and what's real. Like I said, there's now deep fake and you can see your favorite star in a porno film right now, and you can't tell the difference. The real risk here is if you can't, they have a commercial done by Obama, and you can't tell it's not Obama. Not that that's good or bad, because I didn't know who he was anyway. But anyway, this whole show is about fake. My new book coming out is called Fake. It'll be online for social media for free soon. And we come back, I'll explain why the U.S. Constitution guarantees the U.S. dollar is toast. Again, I'll say it again. When you come back, I'll be talking about how the U.S. Constitution, not the amendments, the U.S. Constitution guarantees that fake money will prevail and it'll eventually bring the whole system down.
You're listening to The Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki.
Don't be like Charlie. Charlie is that do-it-yourselfer who does himself in. Do-it-yourself is good for tile and grout. It is not good for asset protection. Charlie thought he'd save a few dollars forming his LLC online. With no guidance, he did it wrong. When he sold the property, he lost thousands and thousands of dollars. He did himself in by trying to do it himself. Don't burn yourself. Use Corporate Direct to set up and maintain your LLCs and corporations. Corporate Direct is owned and operated by attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Garrett wrote the bestsellers Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. He is Robert Kiyosaki's attorney for asset protection. He and his team will do it right. Visit them at corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention Rich Dad and receive $100 off your formation fee. That's corporatedirect.com. corporatedirect.com.
Log on to richdadradio.com while you listen. Now back to Robert Kiyosaki.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. And you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them for two reasons. Number one is that you listen to this program again, because repetition is how we learn best. Is you listen to this program again, you'll learn even more from our great guests and things like this. But also because you can share this program with your friends, family, loved ones, business partners, and all this, and then discuss it, because you'll learn even more by discussing it. Because there's so many people right now who are in fake assets, and they're listening to fake teachers, and they don't know what real money is and what fake money is. So the purpose of Rich Dad Radio is to just create some controversy. Because you want to hear the same old thing, tune in to CNN and Fox and you'll hear the same old thing. Okay? I mean, that's really what it is. You listen to CNBC, they're going to tell you why you should buy stocks, hold for the long term, and your 401k is safe. If that's really what you want to hear, the Rich Dad program, radio program, is not for you. And our two guests today are Brian London, editor and publisher of Gold Newsletter, host of the New Orleans Investment Conference, November 4th, 1 through 4 in New Orleans. His website is goldnewsletter.com. And Chris Blasi, chairman of Neptune Holdings, LLC, and his website is neptuneglobal.com. Now, as before we went to break, I told you I was going to explain why the U.S. Constitution guarantees our money is going to dissolve. It's going to disappear like the Revolutionary War money, the Continental disappeared, why the Civil War dollar, the Confederate dollar disappeared, why the Chinese, who were the first to print paper money, disappeared in 600 A.D., and the Roman Empire went bust because they were fighting too many wars, and they debased our currency, which debased means they added base metals to it. So instead of having silver and gold, they started screwing you and me, or their own constituency, by putting nickel and tin inside their coins. Now you can say, well, the United States wouldn't do that. Well, they already did it in 1964. So when you look at a U.S. quarter or a dime, prior to 1964, there was no copper tinge in it. Today, there's copper tinge in it, which means even our silver coins, U.S. silver coins, are fake. And here you are, busting your butt, paying your taxes, doing what you're told to do in school, and you work hard for money. And lesson number one in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the rich don't work for money. So anyway, I'll read to you what the Constitution says. This is not the amendment, not the First Amendment, Second Amendment. This is the Constitution. why can't our Constitution, why can't our lawmakers, our senators, our congressmen, our president, our vice, why can't they pass a budget? If you're a public company, you'd be delisted if you did that. The January 2718 issue, The Economist explains the reason why American leaders cannot balance the budget and why America must go bankrupt. Quote, the Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse. 4 things are odd about the way it issues it. First, annual budgets cover only the roughly 1/3 of federal budget spending. Only 1/3. So our president, our Senate, and our Congress only can cover 1/3 of the budget. It goes on to say, most entitlement programs, such as Medicare, health care for the elderly, and all the other entitlement programs are funded automatically. What does that mean? It means that if Social Security goes broke and is destined to go broke, and is already going into the negative right now, that the entire U.S. budget will go to Social Security and Medicare, as the baby boomers are too old and baby boomers don't have any money set aside. I think less than 20% have enough to retire on. 80% are broke. So this means what the economists are saying, our Constitution guarantees that we're going to pay for people who are broke. And that means they're going to have to print more money. So that's why it's a very important article, January 27th, 2018, The Economist. That's why our Constitution guarantees it. What that means is they will print more money. Or if they don't print more money, we go into a depression. So the question I have to ask for you, there's 3 choices. Are we going to print more money, or we're not going to print more money? That's the question. And the third choice is, can we go back to the gold standard? I don't think so. I don't really think so. That's why the Rich Dad Company has always recommended you go on to your own gold standard. Brian London, what do you think about all that?
Wow. Well, I think there's a lot to be said there, Robert. First off, you're exactly right. On the budget, there's about $725 billion in domestic appropriations that can't be touched. Absolutely can't be touched. And so we're running right now at about $1 trillion deficits once again, and the projections are that for the remainder of President Trump's term and perhaps the next term, we're going to still have $1 trillion budgets. And that's just the way things are. There's so much of the federal budget that is untouchable, that it's automatically funded, that there's literally no way to avoid this. So when deficits get so high, they can't be managed. You can't cut spending.
So that means if the budget is underwater $1 trillion plus, Afghanistan already cost us $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Plus, we're still, Trump's sending more troops out there. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I fought there twice. I don't think we can win. The Viet Cong kicked our butt. You can't kill a country that's based upon philosophy and not industry. I don't know how you can do it. So, Chris, what do you think about all that?
So what I think is that the system is irreparable, and that, between the debts, the imbalances in the budgets, the massive unfunded liabilities, the massive shortfall in state pensions that don't be surprised if they don't go to the federal government and get bailed out, even though there's no obligation for the federal government to do that. The point is the collision course and the collapse of this financial system here it's pretty much inevitable. And I agree we're not going back to a gold standard, so therefore it's incumbent on an individual to make their own plans and protect themselves on their own.
All I say is, create your own gold standard. You don't have to. It doesn't take much to do that. But if you're saving U.S. dollars, you're an idiot right now. Would you say?
Absolutely. And if you think that you're going to be bailed out when things start to implode, we know already the middle class is being eviscerated, right? They are being liquidated. And this isn't when we haven't hit the official collapse. But I believe in hindsight, people will say that, the collapse has already started. And I agree with that. So my point is, it's not that difficult. In the current market, right, you still have the ability to safeguard and build your own wealth and take positions. You have to do it when it's available to you, and at the end of the day, you have to look out for yourself.
Yeah, just go on your own gold or silver standard. It's not that hard. When I was in 1964, I went on the silver standard. I was buying U.S. dimes for a dime because it didn't have that copper tinge around it. After 64, it had that copper tinge around it. So, Brian, are dimes without copper around the pre-64, are they still worth what they were worth before?
They're worth more in U.S.
Silver.
currency.
Yeah.
I do a chart in my presentations from 1965 to date showing the decline in the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar. And I picked that point because that's when they took silver out of the coinage. And from that, over that period, over that 50-some-odd year period, the dollar has lost 88% of its purchasing power.
Oh, you're generous. I have it at 95% because I like to scare the you-know-what out of people. Make them
I'm using the
buy some
government
dimes,
numbers. I'm using the CPI. I'm using the government's numbers by its own admission.
Oh, you're generous. You're generous.
Yeah. But the point that I make is that this happened in ancient Rome. Over about the same amount of time, the Roman denarius lost almost exactly the same amount of purchasing power.
For the same reason, they had too many entitlement programs and they were fighting wars, extended battles far away from Rome.
And there were 6 Roman emperors deposed during that period, at 1.3 in 1 year. And it's just a good thing we have elections, because we automatically depose these guys. But it's happened before. It's what's going to happen again.
Yeah, and also you're the publisher of Gold Newsletter, and I suggest people subscribe to that if you want to stay up to date with this, because Brian started off a young guy, and he's been in it for all these years. We've seen the changes. Like I bought my first gold in 1972 when it was illegal. I had to smuggle that little Krugerrand in. I was a criminal until Jim Blanchard, the founder of the New Orleans Investment Conference, made it legal again. Can you imagine that? It was illegal. I was a criminal smuggling in one Krugerrand. I think I paid $50 for it, and today it's worth about $1,500. Why would I save money? I just don't get it. So, Chris, tell us about Neptune Holdings and what's the difference between a PMC ounce and those fake ETFs like GLD and SLV?
So the PMC ounce, which means the precious metals composite, it was created for a couple of things. One of the key things are, we have a lot of people that, people use the term gold bug, and they bought their gold and silver and they're holding it. And then, of course, Wall Street created instruments like ETFs, which, when you really read the prospectus, it's not gold or silver ownership, right? It's tracking the price of gold and silver. And
there's no gold and silver there.
It's really questionable what's there.
It's a fractional reserve process. It means they can have 1 ounce of gold and sell 50 ounces of ETFs.
There's a whole host of things about, are there derivatives in there? GLD being the largest, they talk about holding gold in unallocated form with no cap on that. Unallocated is a fancy way of saying, they didn't get it. So the point is, what Neptune Global did a number of years ago and said, look, we understand that people want ease of trade, being able to buy or sell in real time, but can we create an investment asset vehicle where people can buy and sell gold, silver, or the PMC ounce, which I'll expand on in a second, and it actually be delivered into a non-bank bullion depository, all in LBMA-approved bars, and assigned in the client's name at the depository level. And that's what Neptune Global brought to the market.
See, that's what you guys are doing. The most important thing, the gold is in your name. When it's an ETF, it's not in your name.
Exactly. That custodian, whoever is the custodian for the metals within an ETF, has no idea who you are as an investor.
And that's, in my world, it's called your counterparty risk. I mean, do you know that guy holding your stocks? Do you know that guy holding your mutual funds? Do you know that guy holding your 401k? Do you know that guy holding your gold and silver? Answer is no.
And because the metal and the products that we offer, the PMC ounce and gold and silver vault accounts, it's not securitized, we received a patent because it truly was unique. It's not a stock, it's not an ETF, and it's not a derivative like from the commodities futures market. So because of this unique construct, it received a patent. So we truly brought the best of two worlds together as far as ease of trade, trading in real time, but the metal actually being there. Yeah. And then we ratcheted up another level in what we call value. And the PMC ounce each PMC ounce has a fixed fractional amount of gold, silver, platinum, palladium that's logically weighted between the metals, and that blended return helps to mitigate the excess volatility that people kind of experience on a short-term basis.
Yeah, it's called you've diversified the precious metals.
Absolutely, and it's totally turnkey, Robert. It is a turnkey precious metals portfolio within each PMC ounce, and how much you own just depends on how many PMC ounces you purchase.
And once again, I own some of your PMC ounces, but I do not recommend them. We're not an investment advisory company. But the reason I bought your PMC ounce is my friend Jim Rickards said it's a great deal, so I had to jump in on that one. If Jim says it's good, it must be good.
And you know what? It has been performing since its inception in 2008 as it's designed to do, and that is displayed on the homepage of our website, NeptuneGlobal.com, by a chart showing the PMC ounce versus gold and silver. And again, it's not a managed fund. It is a fixed holding, but you just see that
it's just real.
It's real, and it just moves more smoothly. Of course, if all the metals are going down, it's metal. It's real bullion, but it takes out those big spikes, especially if you look at silver going back in 2011 and 12.
Yep.
And lastly, I just have to say that the PMC ounce has been doing tremendously well. It's very well received, and it's now even being distributed through other dealers. So it's really taking on, it's getting a lot of traction. It does what it's designed to do, and at the end of the day, the most important thing, Robert, which you point out, it is actual physical bullion.
It's real.
Non-bank depository. It is real.
It's not paper.
Right.
So once again, I want to thank you guys. Chris, are you speaking at the New Orleans Investment Conference?
I plan on being there. I don't know if I will be a participant officially or a guest.
Okay, well, I will be there. So, Brian, you're going to have some of the best speakers in the world as usual, and it'll be controversial. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. It's headlined by some guy named Robert Kiyosaki.
Now, last year you had what was his name?
Tucker Carlson.
I love that guy, boy. You think he's tough on Fox? He was horrible. He just came out firing. I'm going, all right, Tucker.
He was incredible. Jonah Goldberg was also very good last year. He's coming back. Mark Stein's coming back. But, Robert, don't have your listeners pay full price for any of this stuff. We have a special page set up for them, just goldnewsletter.com/richdad, and there's some special discounts for them.
Well, that's very, very generous of you all. And once again, I want to thank you for being part of the program. And again, remind you, we don't recommend anything. We just kind of advise people. We'll tell you what's happening. I'll be one of the speakers, and I'll be talking about my favorite subject, is what's real and what's fake. So thank you, Brian, and thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. And we come back, we're going to the next part. Probably the most popular part of our program is Ask Robert.
You're listening to The Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki.
Don't be like Charlie. Charlie is that do-it-yourselfer who does himself in. Do-it-yourself is good for tile and grout. It is not good for asset protection. Charlie thought he'd save a few dollars forming his LLC online. With no guidance, he did it wrong. When he sold the property, he lost thousands and thousands of dollars. He did himself in by trying to do it himself. Don't burn yourself. Use Corporate Direct to set up and maintain your LLCs and corporations. Corporate Direct is owned and operated by attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Garrett wrote the bestsellers Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. He is Robert Kiyosaki's attorney for asset protection. He and his team will do it right. Visit them at corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention Rich Dad and receive $100 off your formation fee. That's corporatedirect.com. corporatedirect.com.
It pays to listen. Now back to Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And you can listen to this radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android, and all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. Once again, we archive it because repetition is how you learn it better. So listen to the program again, and you'll learn even more. But also, most importantly, is you have friends, family members, and business associates who really like saving cash and like the stock market. I would play this for them and have some discussion. because you'll find out that so many people have beliefs about this stuff called money. But unless you study the history of money, like both, I want to thank Brian London and Chris Blasey said, this is not the first time, man. They've been doing this for years. They screw people by printing money. It's been going on since 600 AD in China. The Weimar Republic did it in 1920, 1922, 1923. They printed so many Reichsmark, it led to a guy named Hitler, which led to the murder of millions and millions of people. And people sit there and they save that counterfeit money called the dollar, the euro, the yen, the peso. And it's because our schools have no financial education. So listen to this program again. Listen to what Brian London said. He's a publisher of Gold Newsletter, and Chris Blasey of Neptune Gold Holdings, because they talk about what's real and what's fake. And it's all those wonderful things that education can help you, except our schools are fraudulent. They don't teach you any of this stuff in school. So that's why discuss it with your friends, and you'll have some lively discussions. You should have it in an open air place so the tempers don't get too hot, because so many people are really stupid. They're saving money when we've gone through the biggest money printing in world history since 2008. And these idiots are still saving money. They're still going to school. They're still looking for a job, but they don't know it's our money, stupid. Our money is corrupt. So anyway, you can submit your questions to Ask Robert at richdadradio.com. Once again, thank you to Brian London. November 1st through the 4th, fabulous New Orleans Investment Conference, and Chris Blasey, Neptune Gold Global Holdings. His website is Neptune Gold, and Brian's goldnewsletter.com. So, Melissa, what's the first question for Ask Robert?
Our first question today comes from Nelson in La Puente. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He says, Robert, based on your professional experience, when do you think the gold price is going to bottom out?
Well, that's really a good question, but not a very sophisticated question. I hate to tell you that. I don't know if you know this. If you've been following Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I never sell gold. Never. I've been buying it since 1972. I think I sold 3 coins once, because it was such a good deal. I mean, I owed this guy, I think, $3,000 or something. And since I only paid like $80 for the coin, I got a discount giving him some gold coins, and he was happy with gold coins. So anyway, I don't sell gold or silver because it's real money. And when the price of gold goes up, it's not that gold is going up or down, it's our money is going down. And when the price of gold goes down, it's because our money is going up again. So it has nothing to do with gold and silver. See, gold and silver are real money. There's a thing called no counterparty risk. Counterparty risk means exactly what Chris Blasey was saying about the PMC. I don't need a bank to determine its value. Gold is God's money. Gold has been here since before time. Gold and silver were here when the earth was formed. Gold is atomic number 79. Silver is atomic number 47. Gold and silver will be here long after the cockroach, you, me, and the U.S. dollar is extinct. So that's why I'd rather have, and like I said, in 71, Nixon took us off the gold standard. In 72, I went on the gold standard. So I never sell. I don't care if the price goes up and down. I do it. I buy gold and silver because I don't trust our government. You trust our government, save that stupid dollar, the yen, the peso, euro. Save it. Remember, you're really stupid if you do that, because these guys are crooks. They're corrupt. They're highly educated corruption guys. And if you save it, then don't complain when it goes to bust, because it's always gone bust throughout history. Always. That's guaranteed. And right now, once it goes bust, you won't be able to buy gold and silver because it's already in hiding. There's a law called Gresham's Law. When bad money enters a system, good money goes into hiding. That's Gresham's Law. So this is historical. So I don't really care if the price is going up or down. When it goes down, I buy more. That's it. But I never sell. That's the difference. Next question, please.
Our next question comes from Ariel in Poland. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What, in your opinion, will happen to the U.S. dollar when the stock market collapses? Will it get stronger or will it weaken? She says, I have most of my money in U.S. dollars, but do you recommend buying gold to protect it against the stock market collapse?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't really hedge against the stock market. The real question is the bond market. The bond market's like 100 times bigger than the stock market. And what happens when you print money, you have to sell bonds. Bonds are debt. So the Federal Reserve writes this check and buys these bonds out of thin air. There's nothing there. The Fed just makes this money up and it buys U.S. bonds. And that's what the U.S. dollar is based upon. So the stock market is just reflection because they've sold so many bonds, and this fake money goes into the stock market. It pushes the stock market up because people have got no place else to go. They've got no place else to go. You know, you get zero interest on your dollars or yen or all this stuff. So it's forcing all these losers into the stock market. And as you know, the pros will be out. The professional investors in the stock market will be out a long time before you and I ever get the news. It's always insider trading. So you can buy all this stuff. If I was in Poland, I'd be looking at the Swiss franc, because the Swiss, and we don't make recommendations. I just tell you what I own. I own Swiss francs. I don't hold U.S. dollars. I hold gold, Swiss francs. You know, that's the difference, because I don't trust my government. Next question, please.
Our next question comes from Daniel in Miami, Florida. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert, I know you are against using mutual funds and ETFs and would rather put saved money into buying gold or cash flowing assets. But isn't the hedge that gold gives you against inflation canceled out by capital gains tax?
That's a great question, but I don't sell. I'm trying to tell you something. I don't sell. And I don't disrecommend mutual funds and ETFs. I think they're for average people. If you don't know anything about, you have zero financial education, like our leaders, then you should buy stocks and bonds and mutual funds. Be in paper. You know, Tony Robbins is heavily endorsing annuities and ETFs and all this, and I think it's kind of funny because I wouldn't touch that stuff. But for Tony's clientele, and most of them, you know, have zero financial education, and they may be highly educated, like Obama, Bernanke, and those guys, and Clintons. So you should be in stocks, bonds, mutual funds. But if you have financial education, which is what Rich Dad stands for, you must know assets, liabilities, taxes, and debt, which is never taught in school. So I'm not saying one is good or bad and all that. You have to look in the mirror and say, well, who am I? You know. So if you really know nothing, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds are perfect. That's all I'm saying. And then you just take it as it comes. I really don't like being, the scientific word is called, screwed by my own government. So I'd rather invest in my own personal education, go on my gold standard. I don't sell gold and silver. And my new book coming out, Fake, I'll go into, tell you how I can hold gold and silver and never sell. That's the big difference. But unfortunately, most people can't do what myself and my advisors do. But that's what Rich Dad stands for. We just stand out there saying this is what real financial education looks like. Real financial education isn't going to school, saving money, getting out of debt, buying a house, calling it an asset, and saving your money in a 401k, Roth IRA, or those things. Because those things, I know you heard Chris Blasey said, those funds are about to go bust. So I thank you for listening. This is my opinion. Don't invest on my opinion. I'm just telling you what I do. And I tell you why I do it. But I don't trust the central banks. I don't trust, the ECB, European central banks. I especially don't trust the Japanese bank. And look at what's happening in China right now. They're about to go bust too. So the question is, what are you going to do just in case you're not on the gold standard? So you can submit your questions to Ask Robert at Rich Dad Radio. I want to thank Brian London, the editor of Gold Newsletter, the New Orleans Investment Conference, November 1 through 4, and Chris Blasey. He is Neptune Global Holdings because he's got a patent on the PMC ounce. Thank you all for listening.
Hà diều đã bóng nắng cháy giữa đồng, kỷ niệm yêu thương trong mỗi ngày, tiếng ru gọi hãy nhớ biết bao. Tôi xa quê bao năm tháng qua, nhưng trong trái tim không bao giờ xa. Lời mẹ ru con hiu hiu chưa hè, mùa lụt nước